Gladys or not. Okay. I'd like to appreciate Gladys and our team, the product team for organizing this. I'm very particular about learning, right? And whenever I find the opportunity to either learn or to contribute to others learning, always excited to, be part of that group, team, or community. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm also very happy you're all taking this journey towards mastering, product management, product development. Yeah. All right. So a little bit about me. Like I mentioned, my name is Tolulope. I'm from Abeokuta. Yeah, but I'm currently residing in Bavaria in Germany. I work as an Agile coach with a fintech company in Nigeria, Swipe. And I also work as a program manager with another fintech company in Germany, 360X. And in addition to my Agile coaching, product management career, I'm also a creative. I write poetry. I publish literary works at Lunaris Review. I'm one of the facilitators of the Toyin Falala Prize. And a couple of other things, really. All right, so I'm going to go ahead to share my screen now. All right, can you all please confirm that you can see my screen and you can hear my voice? All right, cool. So, all right, cool, thanks. So I've been asked to facilitate a section on Agile product development, right? And while preparing for this, I felt, why should I make use of, a presentation slide like, every other person, right? Since I'm talking to product management and to understand manager myself, right? I need to contextualize, how this learning or this class would be, facilitated, right? And that informed my decision to make use of, Trello. Of course, Trello is just, any other tool like Asana, Jira, right, that you can find out there to, facilitate your product management or project management development process, right? So one of the things I've done is to arrange my discussions into a workflow, right? As a product manager, I'm very sure by now, you are conversant with the idea of, the workflow, cycle, or even, process generally, right? So the workflow for my class or section today would be taking the points of discussions from backlog to to-do, in progress, in review, and then done, right? Hopefully, at the end of the discussion, I'll be able to talk more on, this workflow or generally, how you make use of workflow as a, product manager, right? So part of the things I'll be discussing with you today to do, I've done this already, right? So it's under review. And I'll be talking about, Agile, what are Agile values, the 12 Agile principles. We'll be touching based on Scrum. Scrum is one of the frameworks, one of the popular frameworks in Agile. Then Scrum pillars, Scrum team and Scrum roles, Scrum events, Scrum artifacts and commitment, assignments. Yeah, so I have 2 assignments for you guys. We'll be talking about that as well. So in short, that more or less summarizes everything I'll be talking to you about, right? So let's start from Agile. I would love to, you guys can comment in the chat section. When you hear Agile, what comes to mind, right? What's your day-to-day definition of what Agile is? Yeah, fast, quick review. Any other ideas? On your feet. So for me, that would be the first time I'm seeing that. But yeah, speed, working fast and smart. All right, cool. All these make sense, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a creative. I have my educational background in literary studies and language, right? And one of those things that has informed how I approach ideas, right, is first of all to understand what's the semantic makeup of this concept, this idea, right? So when we are talking about Agile product development, right, there are 3 basic words. Agile product development. What's a product? What's development? Right. And as part of comprehending what concepts or ideas are, right, I love to break them down to like the simplest level of meaning or understanding, right? So development, as we all know, is the process of making, of bringing together. Product is a vehicle that delivers a solution, right? So what is Agile? From the comments I've seen in the chat box, fast, quick delivery, continuous improvement, and all that. Yes, all those things are Agile. So what's Agile product development or Agile product management or Agile project management? All right. Basically, it refers to an iterative or an incremental way of value delivery, right? It basically tells that, okay, so let me backtrack a little bit, all right? Before what is being popularly regarded as Agile now, Agile development, Agile management, Agile product development, Agile thinking, anything Agile at all, right? In the software development industry and project product management industry, there's what is known as a waterfall approach or the traditional approach to software development. And this basically can be depicted or is depicted as a linear progression towards development, right? As you can see on the image here, the waterfall approach starts from requirements, then it finishes that process and moves on to design, finishes that process, moves on to implementation, moves on to verification, moves on to maintenance, and so on, right? So the idea of a development process being waterfall, is linear, right? It's linear. And the issue with that is that, it consumes resources, it wastes time, right? And it doesn't give room to a sort of iterative or, continuous, improvement, right? So it's all about starting 1 to 100 and shipping 1 to 100, right? You can't ship 1, you can't ship 2. You have to build 1 to 100, design 1 to 100, implement 1 to 100, before you can push, right? The downside of this is that, it really wastes a lot of time, right? And that necessitated today being referred to as, the Agile software development process, or, Agile development or Agile product management. All right. In 2001, a group of 17 software development experts came together on how they can improve the process by which software development is being done, right? And they came up with this methodology or mindset of Agile, which is the process of working continuously to deliver value, flexible, iterative, incremental in approach. I wrote a user story here. As a product manager, I want to learn about the background of Agile so that I can understand what it is. In addition to some of the synonyms you've given earlier, Agile is the ability to create and respond to change. It's a way of dealing with and ultimately succeeding in and or certain turbulent environments. And this is very important considering that now things are very fast-paced, especially if you are working in industries like the the fintech industry in Nigeria, or anywhere. As a matter of fact, things are pretty much fast-paced, and that means as a product manager or as a development team, you must or should be able to respond to this on your feet, right? As it happens, you have to be almost right, in terms of gathering the requirements, in terms of designing, in terms of deploying the product. It has to be spontaneous. You can't wait forever, or take all your time to get the requirements, get the design, before getting your product out there, right? Things, some other things would have happened. Your consumers would have moved on, the requirements would have changed, right? And all these factors, all these types of the waterfall approach to software development necessitated Agile as a much more comprehensive and better approach to product development. And talking about Agile, two things really stand out: iteration and increment, right? Building in iterations, incrementally, right? Iterations means in cycles, right? In beats, right? One after the other. Yeah. So if you have 100 things to develop, you necessarily don't have to have an idea about those 100 things or gather out the requirements about those 100 things. You can start with 5. You can start with 1, right? Gather the requirements about the 5, about the 10, design it, ship it, test the market, get the feedback, right? And go back to the remaining, which is the idea of increment, right? You have to continuously be developing, you have to continuously be adding value to, what you are doing already, right? I mentioned earlier, the methodology, or what is being referred to as the methodology of Agile started in 2001 as a concept. Anyways, as I would explain further, the frameworks, right, under Agile, some of them even started before what we know today as the Agile methodology, right? But what is being referred to as software development, the concept, the word, started in 2001 by a group of 17 software development experts, right? And popular amongst these 17 experts, we have Jeff Sutherland and Chris Schwaber, who are the founders or proponents of Scrum, which we are going to, look into today. And then we have, Kent Beck and Robert Martin, the founders of extreme programming, and then Alistair Cockburn, who is the founder of Crystal. So these three frameworks are quite popular when you are talking about, Agile methodologies, right? So this image pretty much, illustrates the idea of, managing, developing, thinking Agile, and the waterfall process, right? So the entirety of this product, object, is what's to be delivered, right? So the waterfall approach is, to gather all the requirements for this, do the design, develop everything, and then you now ship. Everything, right? As you can see with the, illustration, the product manager here, who I'm assuming is you, finds it difficult, to get this project or product to the users because, well, it's a big, complex, probably chaotic, product, right? But here on the, Agile side, we have the same product, but a different approach, which has broken down the product into simpler units, right? So because the project or the product or the work has been broken into, simpler units, they can be shipped in bits, right? They can be designed in bits, they can be shipped in bits, properly tested in bits, before they are being released or deployed to users for consumption, right? I'm going to move this here. So let's talk about, Agile manifesto and values. So when this group of 17 software development experts came together, they produced a document, which is like an artifact of their meeting, right, in 2001. And there are two components of this, this manifesto or document they produced. One is the value, and then the other, is the principle. Yeah, so there are Agile values and then there are principles, right? So there are 4 Agile manifesto values: individual and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. All right, what is noticeable here is that there's a contraction of, what is being depicted or what is being proposed as Agile now and what exists as waterfall or as the existing norm or the status quo, right? So they are proposing that individuals and interactions should be valued over processes and tools, right? As a product manager, as a developer, as an Agile coach, Scrum Master, or even as anyone at all, right? We tend to focus on, processes and tools, right? So it's not unusual for you to find yourself in a team that believes Trello is going to make their work faster. No, it's going to be Jira. No, they have to meet 10 times a day. So the fixation on processes and tools kind of affect what is being done, right? The fixation should not be on, the processes and tools, but rather on individuals and interactions, right? So people actually trump processes, right? So the Agile manifesto is saying we need to value individuals. The Agile manifesto is saying we need to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That is, as a product manager, you should or you must, ensure that you put primary importance on, for example, the developers building your products over the processes or how they are, how they are doing it. Because at the end of the day, what matters is product. People in and monitor, whatever that is being done. That means, you have less interaction with your developers, you have less interaction with even your stakeholders, and sometimes less interactions with your users, right? And these individuals, are very crucial to what you are doing, right? So here, Agile is saying individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools. Of course, yeah, it's not saying processes and tools are not important. Yeah, but if you have to choose between individuals and interactions and processes and tools, we need to choose individuals and interactions. Same thing with working software over comprehensive documentation, right? So the traditional or waterfall approach to development, product management, really puts a lot of emphasis on proper documentation. Again, you must understand that comprehensive documentation, having it, Agile is not saying having that is bad or not good, but it's basically saying, yeah, there are more important things than having a comprehensive documentation. And this is quite logical, right? So imagine a situation whereby you are in charge of a product and the product has a very, very comprehensive documentation, right? The PRD is top-notch and everything, but the product is not working or the product is not out there. Yeah. So at every point in time, you need to focus more on having a working software, a usable, valuable, product, something consumable for your users, right? Over a comprehensive documentation. At the end of the day, if you have a working software and not so comprehensive a documentation, no one would really care, right? But if you have a comprehensive documentation and no working software, then that's, chaos, right? Same thing with customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Yeah. For this, you can imagine a legal person, right, who has a customer over whatever legal issue, right? And the lawyer or the legal person is more fixated on, yeah, you need to sign this, you need to write this, you need to put this into agreement, blah, 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 and all that, over the issue that, the customer is actually bringing forward, right? So you need to put more emphasis on, having a great collaboration with your customers over contract negotiation. So as a product manager, of course, the product you are building for, users or, customers, right? Which means, at the chain of hierarchy, they are perhaps the most, important set of individuals. Right? And you need to, be in constant communication, right? Collaboration with this set of users or individuals over, having them sign documents or, read over, certain things, right? Same thing to, responding to change over following a plan, right? Like I mentioned earlier, one of the downsides of, the traditional approach to software development, product management, or anything is, the linear progression of things, right? That is, one thing has to happen and end before the next thing can happen, right? And what this means is that if there is an issue, there's going to be like an hindrance, a stoppage. Nothing is going to move or work unless that, blockage is removed, right? The implication of this, time is going to be wasted. Product is not going to be deployed. Customers are going to get angry. right? Or, requirements are going to change and everything is going to be messed up, right? So you need to be agile. You need to be able to think on your feet, right? You need to be spontaneous. You need to anticipate changes, right? So what's going to happen next, right? What are the worst case scenarios, right? You need to be able to forecast. You need to be able to project, right? Not necessarily 6 months, 10 years, even in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, right? What are the anticipated changes, right? If you're aware of all this, you'll be able to, move swiftly, right? You'll be able to, maneuver yourself over whatever issues that come up compared to if you are following a plan, right? So in the traditional approach or, the waterfall approach to this, you have a roadmap, 6 months, a year, 2 years, some companies even have up to 3 years, roadmap, right? And they are so fixated on following it, a step at a time, right? If this is not happening, we are not going anywhere. Yeah, this means, they are going to be slow to responding to changes, right? And in this fast-paced economy, right, as a product manager, as an organization, you need to be able to, respond to, changes, customer demands, changes in requirements, yeah, economic issues and all that, right? So these are the 4 Agile manifesto, values that, guide, Agile software development or product development, yeah. The next thing is, the Agile principles, all right? So this is the second component of, the manifesto. Now, these 17 development experts came up with in 2001, and here they listed 12 principles that are, crucial, in any software development environment or to any software development expert, right? The first one is, satisfying the customer, right? Here it says, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software, right? Like I mentioned earlier, in the hierarchy of, the individuals you are serving, if you are a product-led organization, your customers are going to be the most prioritized, set of individuals, because without them, there is no product, right? So you need to ensure that, their satisfaction is very, very crucial. It's at the center of, whatever you are doing, right? This means you have to collaborate with them. You have to communicate with them. You have to get feedbacks from, your customers, right? This communication loop or feedback loop is what is going to enhance the value of, whatever you are building, developing, or managing, right? So it's very important that, your customers are satisfied, always satisfied, right? The second thing is welcoming change. Here it says welcome changing requirements, even late in development processes, and next change for the customers' competitive advantage. Again, like I mentioned earlier, responding to change is very, very important. Yeah. So while you are developing your product, something happened, the requirement changed, right? You need to be able to, adapt, right, to this changed or changing requirement. Yeah, you need to be able to, include it as, part of what you are working on, right? So that means you must be open. You must be open to changes, right? Changes are certain. Yeah, it's always going to come. And as a product manager, you must, one, be open to it. You must know how to manage, changes, right? And you must know how to, include changes in whatever you're managing or whatever your development team is building, The second thing is the third rather, sorry. The third principle is deliver frequently, frequent delivery of value, right? So earlier I mentioned two things are important, right? Iteration and increment, right? Increment is the idea of deploying values in bits, right? Adding value in bits, right? The importance of this is that it is sustainable, yeah? It's not going to burn out your team, your organization in terms of resources and manpower, right? And for your users, it means, at every point in time, they are getting new values, right? So take any of the products you are making use of, WhatsApp, bank app, Zoom, Google Meet, right? You'd find out that after a month, after 2 weeks, you are always getting, some sort of update, right? And these updates, these values being delivered at every point in time, are what's keeping you glued to that product, yeah? So because you have 3 features, that means you have more reason to make use of the product, right? And as a product manager, what you want to achieve, is that, remember, always satisfying your customers. And one of the most important way of satisfying your customers, is to constantly, deliver, value to them, right? Not just, frequent delivery. It has to be something valuable, right? Something they can make use of, right? And that's why in Agile product management or software development, we work in iterations, in cycles, in sprints, in bits, right? Whichever way you choose to, understand it or perceive it, right? You work in bits so that you can deliver frequently, so that you can also deliver in bits, right? And this also helps to not overwhelm your users with, set of features, right? So imagine a product with, tons and tons of features, yeah? And navigating these products or these features can, really, really, really be, stressful or overwhelming for you as a user. When, two features of this product are released, this week, and another set of features are released in the next, 4 weeks. By the time the new features are being released, you must have, get used to or mastered, the usage of these new features. And also for you as a product manager, right, it all have time, ample time to gather feedback. Yeah. So when you build and deploy in bits, you have time to get feedback from your users. All right. So whatever your assumptions are about in a particular feature, when you push it out and your users or your consumers are responding to it in another light, you can easily retract, you can easily improve on it, right? These are the values of delivering in bits. The fourth principle together, right? It says business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. So what exists in the waterfall approach to software development is that, you have organizations, partitioned into departments or teams, sort of. So you have the development team, you have the project or product, team, yeah. And when you have a structure like it becomes difficult to work together, right? When there is not enough interaction between you as a product manager or the head of, a product management team and those that are developing the product, the development team, yeah, there are going to be gaps, right? There are going to be loopholes, right? And the only way loopholes or gaps can be fixed is when the two parties or everyone involved in the development of the product, are closely working together. Right. This is not just about the product managers and the development team, also the stakeholders, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. You need to be in touch, with all these individuals surrounding your product in time. Right. You need their feedbacks, you need their requirements to be able to, build the right product. Yeah. So working together is, very, very important. And, also remembering that, one of the values is that, you need to value individuals over processes and tools, right? So it's very, very crucial that, you want people. People are what get products built, not processes and tools, right? The fifth one is trust and support. Here it says projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need to get the job done. Right. This is very, very, very crucial. I'm very sure Gladys also can, relate to this as a product manager. Yeah. As a product manager, you must be able to trust your team, right? Either your co-product managers or the development team, or even the stakeholders. There must be an appropriate level of trust, right, for you to get a product built, right? And if there is no trust, it's going to affect the the work environment everyone operates, right? So I mean, this is not a one-way demand or requirement, right? It's both ways for all parties, or all ways for everyone involved here. So the development team must also be able to trust you as a product manager, right? So this means, there must be that environment that is supportive, a supportive environment, that is fostered by, trust. The sixth principle is face-to-face conversation, right? So this is one of the Agile principles that in recent time, it's been the most criticized, right? Because we all know at the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of companies, organizations, teams, move to home office, hybrid, which means, there are limited, face-to-face conversations. But regardless, this is still quite important, because compared to Zoom, Google Meet, or, whatever online meetings, having a face-to-face conversation, either with your team or with your customers, with your stakeholders, has much more value, right? A face-to-face conversation is much more valuable than, an online meeting, a virtual meeting, because you'll be able to get a first-hand, response, a first-hand sort of communication, right? This is not mediated by, any technology, right? You can see their mannerism, you can see, their responses, right? And this, this really go a long way in building a product, especially when you are communicating with, the customers, right? You want to be able to figure out, when the customers are being transparent, or, when they are being, basically transparent, right? When they are telling you the truth, or when they are just trying to make you happy as a product manager, right? So face-to-face conversations are, very, very crucial. As much as you can, regardless the limitations, try and have, face-to-face conversations, with your team, with the stakeholders, with your customers. Working software, we already talked about this under the values, right? Working software is the primary measure of progress. Like I said, it is the one of the most important thing, right? Because without the working software, which is the product, there are no customers. There's nothing you are delivering or deploying, or offering your customers, right? So at every point in time, you need to ensure that over a lot of things, your product is working, your product is available, right? Working software is the primary measure of progress, right? Regardless of all the documentations, all the meetings and everything. If there is no working software, which is like an increment, then there is nothing really to measure progress against, right? The eighth principle is sustainable development. It says agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely, right? I think this is quite important for you to note, especially if you are working in Nigerian or generally an African organization or African products, right? Because there is the culture of hardworking, right? And this is somewhat erroneous in that employees are being pushed to deliver more than they can actually deliver. As an individual, I have a framework that guides a lot of things I do, in terms of making decisions, in terms of product building, agile coaching, right? And its suitability, sustainability and scalability. Suitability in the sense that, does it work, right? Is it going to work? That's the first level of what guides my decision. Yeah. The other thing is sustainable. Can I keep it up? Right. So if I'm doing 1,000 things right now, can I do 1,000 things tomorrow? Can I do 1,000 things 3 days after today? Can I maintain that for a whole year? Right? Is it sustainable? Right. And that's exactly what this sustainable development is talking about. Right. As a product manager, bearing in mind that working softwares are important, you need to satisfy your customers and you need to ensure that value is being delivered frequently. Right. At the center of this is, everything being sustainable, right? So if you are shipping a product or you are working on a product, right, you want to ensure that at every point in time, you are able to, deliver value to your customers. But behind that, you need to ask yourself, you need to ask your development team, right? Is this development process sustainable? Can we keep it up? Right? I mean, when your product is out there and everyone is loving it and whatever the reaction is, can you keep it up? Can you keep going at it? Right. This is very, very crucial. And that's why it is important to, break or divide your development process into one workflows and into bits as well. Right. So don't commit or take more than you can deliver, right? At every point in time, you must be able to sustainably, design, sustainably develop, sustainably deploy, right? This is very crucial because you want to avoid burnout, right? You don't want to move at a very, very fast pace and eventually when you're out there, you're unable to maintain the pace. Yeah, so you want to ensure that, okay, if it is, three features or a feature you are getting deployed or delivered every month, every 2 weeks, you can keep it up, right? You can keep at it every 2 weeks, you can deliver something, right? So don't deliver 100 updates or features in 1 month and then the next month, you're unable to deliver anything, right? So you need to ensure that, your development or management process is, quite sustainable, right? And I mentioned earlier, you have to take note of this if you are working with, in an African company, because sponsors and internal stakeholders, they would really want to push either you or your team very hard and fast, so that they can get the product out there, they can make this money and all that. But you need to be very conscious, okay, in as much as we want to, or in as much as the sponsors, the internal stakeholders, to get everything done, all at once. You have to be conscious. You have to know that there are people working behind these products. There are processes behind whatever you are doing, and you need to ensure the sustainability of that, right? The ninth principle is continuous attention. So continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. This is quite straightforward, right? And more than it speaks to you as a product manager, it speaks more to the development team, right? While you are fixated about your customers, the product processes, you need to ensure that, at every point in time, at the back end of things, right, the technical side of things, everything is working smoothly, everything is fine, right? So, for instance, you want to touch base with your development team, either, everyone or the CTO or the engineering leads, at their technical depth, right? In the bid to get, products out there, did they cut any process, did they build anything hurriedly? Are there issues in terms of code enhancement that they need to do, right? Are there design issues? So at every point in time, you need to pay attention to this. You need to ask your development team or your developers, about the status of this, technical side of things. The 10th principle is, maintain simplicity. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. The act of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. As an undergraduate, one of the most important things I learned is, the simplest things are always the best. The simplest thing, they always work. And of course, the simplest thing would require the least amount of risk or resources. So why not keep it simple? Right. I'm sure you must have heard the term, reinventing the wheel, right? Why do you need to reinvent the wheel when there's an existing wheel that works? Right. So as much as you can, you need to keep things simple. And that speaks to a lot of things, in terms of documentation. You don't need a 50-page PRD, right, just to show, okay, this is like the in-depth of what you are trying to build. Your development team, believe me, they are not going to read the 50-page document, right? So you need to keep it simple, right? You need to be able to communicate these things in much more simpler ways, simpler terms, in terms of visualization, coming up with flowcharts, workflows, right, that aid the understanding. The same thing for the product you are building, right? You need to understand that, one, you need to understand who your consumers are, right? And you need to find a way to serve them the simplest way, you can serve them. You don't want to, serve your customers or, deploy a feature or a value or products to them, and, they start coming back to you for clarifications, right? So whatever you are building, whatever you are managing as a product, you need to ensure that, it is consumable, right? It is when the users or the consumer or the customers can, make use of this product, that's when value is delivered. All right. So you need to always keep it simple. Yeah. The 11th principle, self-organizing teams, the best architectures, requirements, and design emerge from self-organizing teams. So basically, self-organization is, when a team or when an individual, a team or an organization, self-manages. Yeah, it's lame, I know, but so let me give you an instance. As a product manager, you are responsible for, a couple of things, right? Which includes, facilitating an event, a meeting, right? Collaborating with your development team, right? But at every point in time, you don't want to be the one, telling your developers what to do, telling a team what should be done, right? You want to be in an environment that is, self-managing, self-organizing, right? In that everyone can take initiative, people are creative, right? One, they know what to be done. They suggest better ways of doing things, right? Because whether you love it or not, as a product manager, in as much as you need to have your eyes on almost everything, you really can't, right? So you would have to trust or rely on every other person in an organization or working on a product to be able to, come up with ideas as well, to point out issues to you, right? And you really want to be in an environment or a team, right, that is self-managing, right? That is, everyone takes initiative. You don't have to prod or push anyone to get things done, right? And one of the ways of doing that is, passing that information across to everyone on board. Yeah, you are not there to father or mother anyone, right? You're not there to teach, right? Or, to lead in that traditional sense, right? So everyone should be able to work together, to be creative, to come up with solutions to, help the product, yeah, and the organization eventually. The 12th principle, reflect and adjust. At regular interval, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behaviors accordingly. All right, so this does not only speak to the team, right? It also speaks to the product. It's related to the idea of responding to change, right? So here, two words are important. One is adapting, then adopting, all right? So you need to learn, right, from whatever you are doing, yeah, individually, as a team, as an organization. You have to have moments of, right, so what have we done right? What have we done wrong? Yeah, what are the areas of improvement, right? And this has to be constant as well. And at every point in time, you need to, touch base with, every other person working on the product, to figure out, these areas of improvement, right? So it's not just figuring out these areas of improvement, but also adopting them, right? So one of the issues we figured out is that, there are communication gaps in your team or in your organization. And probably one of the solutions would be to, meet regularly, right? So you don't have to, or you are not just, figuring out a problem. You need to be able to provide a solution. And when you provide a solution, you need to, leave that solution. You need to include it. You need to abide by, that regulation, policy, suggestion, or solution you've just come up with, right? So these are the 12, Agile principles. And, as I hope you must have learned now, they are quite central to the idea of product thinking, of, product management, software development. And of course, like, a lot of, Agile practitioners would argue these are not just, ideas that are only relevant to your profession, say, as a product manager. These are also ideas that are very, very relevant to your personal or individual life, right? If you can embrace these, principles, you definitely grow as, as a person, right? And if you're able to grow as a person, you also definitely be able to grow professionally as well. All right. Are there any questions?
Hello, guys. So, if you have any questions, you can just drop them in the chat box, or you wait till the end of the class. But please don't, make sure you don't lose track of them. So I think, so I think we can just finish. Then we now take to
All
the
right, cool.
session. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Larry. So like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple of frameworks under Agile, right? And Agile here, by Agile, I'm referring to, the idea of Agile software development as postulated or as defined by 17 software, development experts, right? So there are certain frameworks that have been in existence prior to, that concept of Agile. And three of these, popular frameworks are Scrum, Extreme Programming, and Crystal. I mean, all these they are very wonderful frameworks to start. And one of those things I mentioned to, product managers, Agile coaches, Scrum masters, right, even the developers, right, is that you need to be familiar with, all these, frameworks, yeah. Because when familiar with almost every one of them, that's when you can, really decide what works best for your team. Excuse me. All right. That's when you can really decide what works best for your team or for your organization. All right. So it's very, very important to, have some level of understanding about, these different frameworks, right? But in this class, I'll only be talking about Scrum because, well, Scrum is, one of the most popular and as one of, the simplest approaches to, product development, right? The two co-founders of Scrum are Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber in 1995. I'm going to recommend that after I aspire to read the Scrum Guide, right? It pretty much talks in detail about, some of the things I'll be, discussing here. In the Scrum Guide by, Jeff Sutherland and Quench, they define, or rather describe Scrum, as a lightweight that helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems, right? Like I said earlier on, one of the things I pay attention to, is, words, how words are used, what kind of words are used, why those words are used, all right? So in the definition or description of Scrum, you find, important words like, lightweight framework, value, adaptive solutions, complex problems. These are very, very important words, right? Lightweight framework, it means lightweight, right? That is, simple. Remember we talked earlier about, keeping it simple, right? So Scrum is one of the, agile framework, very, very easy or, simple to understand, to use in terms of, the values, the prescriptions, the roles, and every other thing it embodies, right? So it's a lightweight framework. It can be easily deployed, right, in almost all, work environment or situations, right? To generate value, of course, like, every other agile framework, it's important to always deliver value. It's very, very important. The outcome is very, very crucial. Adaptive solution, speaking to the idea of, adopting iteration and, also increment, right? That is, you learn from what you've been doing to enhance what you are working on to get to a better place, right? Adaptive, you have to learn from something, you have to always go better, right? You have to do more, you have to always enhance your product, right? Complex problems, right? Software development is, actually a complex problem, right? So you can imagine developing a shuttle that is going to take you to the moon, and then you have, certain software component that, you need to work on, right? I mean, it's complex. Think of, any solution at all you are trying to, to provide, right? So one of the ways of approaching these issues, this problem, is Scrum, which is a lightweight, framework. So what are, the Scrum values, right? These values are, quite similar to, some of the things we already talked about under, Agile values and principles, but in a way they are more specific, right? And yeah, more specific. So one is focus. It is, focusing on the work of the sprint, that is, as a product manager, when you are committed to working on something, right, you need to ensure that not just yourself, but also your development team, all hands are on deck, right? It is when you are focused, right, that's when you'll be able to deliver a product. And I mean, a lot would happen, yeah, eventually when you start working on products, a lot are going to happen that are probably, going to or want to derail, your development process or flow, right? As a product manager, you need to ensure that, okay, your team is focused, right? And that's why, as I'll explain to us later on, one of the fundamental rules or accountabilities under Scrum is the Scrum Master, right? Someone who ensures that, the team stays on track. Yeah. So focus is, quite important. Courage, have the courage to do the right thing and to work on tough problems, right? This is quite straightforward. Yeah. Of course, as a product manager handling, products, you would have to be courageous. You need to be tough. Yeah, because there will be changing requirements, there will be tough individuals to work with, there will be ugly situations to deal with, right? So you need to have the courage to be able to stay on top of these things, right? And the courage goes beyond you being able to do these things, also being transparent, being able to communicate. So if there are issues, right, are you able to communicate them to the appropriate individual, right? Are you transparent enough with your team, right? And of course, this is not just a requirement for the product manager, the product owner, basically everyone that is working on the product, right, including developers, you must encourage, that, spirit or idea of, courage. Everyone has to be transparent. You must be able to communicate openly, right? You must be able to deal with situations, hands-on. Yeah. The other one is commitment. This is quite similar to focus. So the Scrum team commits to achieving its goals and to supporting each other, right? So one of the important ideas under Agile is, collaboration or cross collaboration, right? You want to work in a team or in an organization whereby, everyone delivers, their own part of the bargain or their own part of the deal, right? And the way that can be achieved is when there is commitment, right? When there is a general team collaboration, yeah, everyone works together, right? If there is a fall to be taken, everyone takes it together. I mean, if there's a victory, everyone takes it together. So that builds a sort of, supportive environment for everyone to be able to achieve a common goal, right? Commitment. The other Scrum value is openness. So I talked about this a bit under, having courage, open about the work and the challenges. As a product manager, you are definitely going to go through a lot of challenges, right? Either with your development team, developers, customers, or stakeholders. Yeah, you need to be able to be transparent with them. Right. So if there is an issue, you should be able to communicate it. Right. Transparency helps a lot of things. Right. So you need to be quite open with whatever you are doing. And that's why under Agile product development or management, one of the things that has been pushed most is visualization, right? Everyone should be able to see what you are doing, right? And that's why you have tools like Trello and the likes, right? So that everyone can see what's going on, right? So openness about communication, about issues, about challenges, about sources, about defeat or failure, right? You need to have an open-minded approach to these things. The other thing is the respect. Respect each other to be capable, independent people, right? This is similar to the idea of trust, right? That we talked about earlier under the Agile values and principles. But respect basically is knowing that, okay, your developers, right, they can deliver what you've entrusted them to deliver, right? The stakeholders trusting that you can deliver what they've entrusted you to deliver, right? So when there's that supportive environment, yeah, there's definitely going to be respect, right, for one, the individuals you are working with, even respect for the product you are working on, right? Your customers, right? There should be, that environment that supports or promotes, respect for one another, right? And that's one of the differences you would notice if you are working with, say, a Nigerian African company and, a foreign organization, right? When you work with a foreign organization, well, unless you are working with, a Chinese company or an Indian company, sorry to say, yeah, you would always find that, atmosphere of, respect. Yeah, they trust you, they believe you, right? That yes, you are going to get your part of the work done. If you are going through an issue, or if there are issues, everyone will rally around you to get things done. Yeah, and this is also the same mindset you want to have as a product manager when you start working on a product or with your customers and your developers, right? You want to respect them. People tend to be more productive when they feel respected, Yeah. So respect as a value is very, very central to, the process of, product development. So Scrum pillars, again, one of the fundamental ideas at the center of Scrum is empiricism, right? Empiricism from the word empiric, meaning practical, right? Yeah, I jotted something down where, Scrum is founded on empiricism and lean thinking. Empiricism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed. Lean thinking reduces waste and focuses on the essential. So these two notions, greatly influence, the conceptualization or, the workings of, Scrum as a framework, right? On one hand, empiricism, on the other hand, lean thinking. Empiricism laying emphasis on, experience, right? So you need to learn, you need to make mistakes, you need to grow, right? Like I mentioned earlier, it's not just enough to figure out issues, right? So it's not just enough to know, yeah, there are areas of improvement. You also need to be able to, adopt something rather, and adapt to, these solutions, right? So that's a very, very crucial way, you can grow as an individual, you can grow, professionally, and you can also grow your product. So you need to take feedback from your customers, yeah, and then work on those feedbacks, all right? You need to always inspect, your workflow, your development process, right? So you need to gather insights from, a lot of things about a lot of things, right? These things are going to help you to, move ahead, move on, to deliver even a better outcome, right? Like I mentioned earlier, sustainable progress, right? So you want to deliver one today, you want to deliver two tomorrow, right? So if you are delivering two tomorrow, you want to be delivering three, in 2 days' time, right? And the only way you can do that is when you are learning from, from your experience, right? So as a product management student now, or enthusiast, or entry-level product managers, right? You need to learn, a couple of things. You are never going to complete learning. It's a continuous process, right? You would keep learning, right? But what is important is that, at every point that you are, learning one or two things, you are improving on them, on how you are making use of, the knowledge you are gathering or you are collecting, right? That's where empiricism comes in, right? Something practical, yeah. So an important aspect of this as well is, it can be quite overwhelming as a product manager. So there are a lot of processes out there, there are a lot of tools out there, yeah, but you need to be very practical. What works, right? So you've learned about a framework, giving you all sorts of prescription. You do this in the morning, you do this in the night. But when you are making use of it, does it really work? Is it giving you the outcome you want, right? So you have to be quite, quite practical. Yeah, the other thing is, lean thinking, as it says here, one of the objectives of, lean thinking is, cutting wastage, reducing reducing time, right? So you have to make sure that, okay, whatever you are working on here, is it the most efficient way? All right. So if you can get things done in 2 days, why are you spending 5 days? Right. If one person can work on a task, why do you have, 2, 3, 4, 5? Right. This concept, these ideas are very crucial to your success as, as a product manager, or to your individual, progression as well. All right. So there are three values or three items under the pillars of Scrum, right? Basically, the foundation on which Scrum stands, transparency, inspection, and adaptation. All right, like I mentioned earlier, transparency is quite important, right? Everyone needs to know what's going on at every point in time. That's why we have management tools or development tools like Trello that I'm making use of now. It aids the transparency in a team, in an organization. All right, you want to be open with everyone on what you are doing, on what is going on. All right, and this is vice versa, right? The sponsors, the stakeholders, they need to be as well. The developers, they need to be transparent as well, right? Are you trying to build a product and they can't? They need to be able to communicate to you that, yeah, this is beautiful, but we can't do this, right? Or if you are going to do this, we would need, this and that, right? So as a product manager, you want to curate or moderate an environment and individuals, that are comfortable with, transparency. Yeah. The other thing is inspection, inspection, the idea of measuring what is, being done, right? Check work as you are doing it. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, the whole point of Agile is, to be able to, deliver value incrementally, iteratively, and all that. Yeah. So that means you are working in beats. Yeah. There's a process, there's a workflow, but there are chances nothing is going to be done or nothing is getting done if there is not constant or continuous inspection of what is being done, right? So there is the need for inspection, right? You need to measure progress, you need to inspect. Yeah. So you want it done. Is it being done the way you've specified? All right. So there's a popular saying in the product management space that it's not just about building the right product, but building the right product the right way. Yeah. So you need to inspect constantly, right, to ensure that, yeah, things are getting done and they are getting done the right way. Yeah. So the other thing is adaptation. And of course, the interesting thing about all this is that, they are all right, the way they are layered, inspection, adaptation. So it is when you inspect that you would, learn or be able to see, okay, are there issues, right? And when you figure out their issues, you'll be able to provide solutions, and adapt, right? So, they all work in sync, right? Transparency, inspection, adaptation, they all have to, go hand in hand. You all have to curate these ideas or ensure that these ideas are present wherever you are working or on any product you are working on. All right, so another crucial aspect of Scrum, of course, is the people, yeah, the individuals. So Scrum has a prescription on the types of individuals or the accountabilities as it's being referred to in the Scrum guide. So on Scrum, there are three accountabilities, three roles basically. Product owner, there is the Scrum Master, and then there is the developers. All right. So in the previous guide, the developers are referred to as development team, right? But now they are being referred to as a developer. So these three accountabilities or three roles, they need to work hand in hand to ensure the management, the development of a product, right? So here I wrote here, within a Scrum team, there are no sub-teams or hierarchies. It's a cohesive unit of professionals focused on one objective at a time, the product goal. Yeah, what is really important here is, the hierarchies. So what exists in the waterfall or the traditional approach to development or management is that there are hierarchies, right? So, there is one senior lead, there is a junior somewhere, there is an associate, right? In Agile, the hierarchy is pretty much flat. That is, you have everyone, you are, you have access to everyone, you can communicate with, everyone, you have access to almost everything. And this really helps, to build a collaborative system or a supportive environment, right? So it's very important that, as a product manager, you are preaching for a flat hierarchy system, right? In that a junior developer make, the same level of contribution, right? In terms of, for example, suggestions as, a senior developer, right? You want to create or you want to create a system whereby, everyone is equal ultimately, right? And this helps the team to be collaborative, right? To be able to work together to achieve, a common objective or the common goal, which is the product goal, right? Scrum teams are cross-functional, meaning the members have all skills necessary to create, value each sprint. They are also self-managing, meaning they internally decide who does what, when, and how, right? So again, this speaks to the idea of, having an hierarchical system. Yeah, under Agile, the team or the organization's, system needs to be flat, right? A Scrum team is not organized in terms of, department or specialization or some sub teams, right? A Scrum team is going to be like a full stack of everything you need to get on, right? That's why in a Scrum team, you have, a product owner, you have a Scrum master, you have the developers, right? That's about everything you need to, get a product done, right? And of course, the development team or a developer does not, entirely refer to, what we all know as, developers, right? So a development team or a developer can be a designer, right? A product designer can be a marketer, as a matter of fact, right? Here, Scrum is saying that, every team, everyone that you need to, get this product out there should be part of this, of this team. So that, once you are, in the process of working on the product, the person designing it is there, the person gathering the requirement, the product owner managing the product, yeah, is there. The person that will be, talking to the customers, the marketer or whatever, right, is also part of the Scrum team, right? And what this ensures is that, things are done faster, right? So you have everyone, all hands on deck, working on the same thing to achieve the same purpose, compared to when you have a team that writes the requirement, does the research and all that. And then you have another team that builds the product, and then you have another team that markets, and then you have another team that does, whatever aspect of the product, right? So under Scrum or Agile, everyone needs to come together, work as a team, right, to deliver the, overall objective of, of the product or the organization. And the Scrum team is small enough to remain nimble and large enough to complete significant work within a sprint. typically 10 or fewer people, right? So the usual makeup of a Scrum team is, usually 10, consisting of the product owner, the Scrum master, and the developers, right? So the moment you have, 11, 12, maybe still manageable, right? But the moment it is more than that, then you need to, divide them into another Scrum team, right? And, by the time you have more than 2 Scrum teams, you have to implement what is, called the scaled Agile frameworks, right? These frameworks, cater to the needs of a much more larger team or organization, right? So you can have, 1,000, individuals working on a product, right? In situations like that, you can't employ, a simple Scrum framework. It has to be something scaled, something that can accommodate, the entire organization. All right, so the developers are the people in the Scrum team that are committed to creating any aspect of a usable increment each sprint. Like I mentioned earlier, the developers are not just the engineers, right? They are the testers, they are the designers, every other person working, to get the product ready or consumable for the users, is a developer under Scrum, right? And then we have the product owner. So the tricky part here is that the product owner is almost an equivalent of a product manager, right? So if you are working as a product manager in a Scrum team, you are most likely going to be a product owner. But the truth is that the responsibilities of a product manager is much more deeper or wider than that of a product owner, right? So for instance, a product owner is one, only exists in a Scrum team. So if there is no Scrum, there is no product owner. So you can only be a product owner if there is a Scrum team, yeah. Also the level of the number of individuals you manage as a product owner, is kind of different to that of a product manager. So a product manager can, manage 1,000 people, right? Meanwhile, a product owner would have, even lesser number of, people that, they can easily manage using this kind of, framework, right? But in terms of equivalence, right, it's almost the same, right? The roles, the responsibilities, right? So the product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. How this is done very widely across organizations, Scrum teams, and individuals, of course. So you can, so some of the anomalies I've noticed here is that you have an organization that has a product owner without practicing Scrum. So that's an anomaly. It shouldn't be. You can only have a product owner when you have a Scrum process in place. Yeah. The third role or accountability is that of the Scrum Master. All right. So the Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide. They do this by helping everyone understand Scrum theory and practice both within the Scrum team and organization. So more or less, the Scrum Masters are the knowledge experts of Scrum as a framework, right? So during my introduction earlier, I mentioned I'm an Agile coach, right? Which automatically makes me, a Scrum Master. So part of my responsibility is, introducing a team to Scrum or any other, Agile framework, implementing it, guiding the team in the usage of, this particular framework, and helping the team, the product, and the organization to get value from, adopting, whatever framework, Agile framework, right? What I want to point out here is that, there's an overlap between the roles of a product owner and that of a Scrum Master, in that, as a Scrum Master, you can also be a product owner, and as a product owner, you can also be a Scrum Master, right? So, I mean, some of you as product managers can end up being a Scrum Master, right? The difference is in the responsibilities, right? And probably the level of, knowledge, you need to attain, to be able to get into these positions, right? But as a Scrum Master, yeah, you need to be knowledgeable about, product management, processes and all that, because, part of the responsibilities of a Scrum Master is to be able to guide or help the product owner to, deliver his or her responsibilities, right? To be able to help and guide the development team or developers, to deliver, their own responsibilities as well. So somewhat the role of a Scrum Master is kind of larger and more encompassing, right? And usually you find out, developers or product managers or product owners with, some years of experience, transition into, Scrum Mastering or, Agile coaching. Yeah, but basically these are the three roles, under Scrum. The product owner, which is more or less the equivalent of, you guys, the product managers. You own the product, just the same way you manage the product, right? And then you have the developers, who build the products, and then the Scrum Master who guides or facilitates the team, right? Who teaches the team about Scrum ideas and values. All right, so this is also very, very important, yeah, because as a product manager or as a product owner, you need to have a first-hand knowledge of this event, right? In some way, this event guides the workflow, or let me say generally, the flow of the product development. All right, so there are four events recognized under Scrum. So there is the sprint planning, there is the daily Scrum, there is the sprint review or sprint retrospective, right? And the totality of this, is regarded as sprint or more generally cycle or iterations, right? Remember, we talked about the fact that, product development is scheduled or divided into bits. That bit is a sprint, a sprint, a short distance of running, right, from the word sprint, cycle, bit. So the Scrum guide says sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum, where ideas are turned into value. Like I mentioned, everything that is happening within a Scrum team or a Scrum organization is, happens within the sprint, right? And the first event under in a sprint, is the sprint planning, which initiates the sprint by laying out the work to be performed for the sprint. This resulting plan is created by the collaborative work of the entire Scrum team, right? So basically, the sprint planning is where the discussion about what's to be done for the next couple of weeks, days is discussed, right? So as a product manager, you already know or have a couple of tasks to be done, right? During the sprint planning is where you communicate this, right? So we need to build A, we need to build B, we need to build C, we need to build D, right? So this is the beginning of the sprint, yeah. The On the sprint planning, yeah, as a product owner or as a product manager, you pretty much owns the event. It is your event in that it is the moment you get to communicate to your developers, what's going to be done or get done in a period of time, right? So as a product manager, you need to be on top of, your sprint planning, right? A lot of things need to happen before that sprint planning, including, gathering of requirements, preparing your PRD, your workflows, everything. I thought that, your developers are going to need to be able to build whatever you want them to build. It has to be ready before the sprint planning. Right. So the sprint planning is just the occasion for you to, discuss these things with the Scrum team. All right. The second meeting is the right. Yeah, we talked about, inspection, right? Constant communication. Right. These are the things that, the daily stand-up or daily Scrum helps to ensure, right? It happens every day so that the feedback loop, the inspection loop can occur, right? Every day for 15 minutes. 15 minutes is the recommended duration for a daily Scrum or a stand-up, right? The development team, the developers need to come together to talk about what they are working on, right? What they've worked on, pretty much what they are working on, and if there are issues, right? So you as a product owner, as a product manager, it is important for you to be at these meetings to know or be aware of the level of your products, right? The progress of your product, right? You want to be abreast of situations, what is happening to your product, right? Are the developers encountering any level or sort of issues, right? So this happens for the purpose of, inspection, right? And for you as a product owner, a product manager, to gather feedback. So the third event is the sprint review. The purpose of the sprint review is to inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine future adaptations, right? The Scrum team presents the results of their work to key stakeholders, and progress toward the product goal is discussed. Right, like the word already describes, review, right? You need to see what what is being done, what has been done, right? Another word for this is the demo, right? The demo day, right? So in the past 1 week, 2 weeks, or whatever amount of time, your developers have been working on a specified number of tasks, and now is the time for you to see what they have been working on, right? Usually in this event, the stakeholders are expected to be present as well, right? So officials or executives like the CEO, the sponsors of the products you are working on, right? This is the moment they get to see, okay, this is what the team has been working on, right? And the purpose of this one, inspection and adaptation, right? For them to inspect, to see what is happening, and for the team also to gather feedbacks. Okay, this has not been done properly. So you as a product owner and your developers need to gather this feedback on what needs to be improved, right? What are the areas of improvement here? So sprint reviews are very, very important, especially for you as a product owner or a product manager. This is one of the Scrum events you can't miss, right? You just have to be at this meeting to ensure that everything is going fine or going well with with your product, right? I saw someone raise his hand earlier. Is there any question?
I think it was a mistake because I tried searching for the person to put the person's hand is down.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so the last meeting, the fourth meeting is the retrospective. Again, we already talked about the idea of adaptation and all that here. So constantly, continuously, the team needs to meet, the Scrum team, the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the developers need to meet on, what has been going on, right? This is when challenges, are resolved, if there are issues, personal issues between amongst team members, right? If there are challenges with, the development process, the workflow, or even the product itself, right? And the essence of this, just like the review, is to also be able to gather this feedback. But as I said, not just gathering the feedback. What is more important or of most importance is, working on this feedback, including this feedback in the subsequent development process or flow, right? So at every point in time, continuously, the team needs to evaluate, their working process. They need to touch base with one another to ensure, everything is, working fine. What else can the team do to enhance their development process, right? The sprint retrospective is when, these discussions, take place, right? And as a product owner, as a product manager, it's important for you to be at this meeting because, you want to know how your developers are faring, right? You want to get feedbacks on, how you can, enhance the development or management, process, right? Things you can do to get your teams to be more productive or to work better, right? And Scrum also prescribes, some level of, time duration, right, for these meetings, right? Remember that, one of the fundamental ideas of, Scrum is, lean thinking, which means, we try to avoid wastage of resources or time or anything as much as we can. So there is the need to time box some of these events, right? Time boxing basically is, events is not going to exceed, this number of specified minutes or hours, right? So for the sprint, which is the entire period of, development, right? It's suggesting months or less. So it's usually 2 weeks or 4 weeks, but the most common is, 2 weeks. You have a couple of companies doing 4 weeks, and maybe in some rare situations, more than 4 weeks, right? But it's usually going to be between 2 weeks or 4 weeks, right? Because remember we talked about, frequent delivery, right? So if you are doing more than 4 weeks, then that's, already beyond the idea of keeping it simple or trying to deliver as frequently as possible. All right. For the sprint plan, so if the duration of the sprint is, a month, then the sprint planning can happen for a maximum of 8 hours. Yeah. And if the sprint is 2 weeks, then the maximum duration for the sprint planning is going to be 4 hours. Yeah. The daily score is going to be 15 minutes, but believe me, that is going to be difficult here. But the idea here is that you should try as much as possible to ensure that even if it exceeds this number of minutes, it doesn't exceed it too much, right? Say as for daily scrum, right? So sprint review, 4 hours if it's a month sprint, but then 2 hours if it's going to be 2 weeks. Then 3 hours for sprint retrospective, it's going to be a month. Then an hour and a half for a 2-week sprint. So these are the Scrum events and the prescribed time boxed duration for them. All right, this is going to be the last talking point. So the Scrum artifact and commitment, right? Scrum artifacts represent work or values. They are designed to maximize transparency of key information. Thus, everyone expecting them has the same basis for adaptation. Let's bring this down. So artifacts can be described as a result or an outcome, right, of a work in progress, or work, or a value, right? So under Scrum, there are 3 artifacts. Yeah, you have the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. And for each of these artifacts, you have a commitment, right? You have a product goal, you have a sprint goal, then the definition of done, respectively. All right, so let's take them one by the other. What's a product backlog? Again, the basis of simplicity, what's a product? What's a backlog? And backlog simply is list of one, right? A product is a vehicle for value delivery, right? So, it's a list of things to be done to deliver a product. All right. So this pretty much is the list of requirements you've gathered as a product manager. Remember, one of your responsibilities, or perhaps the most important, is making product discoveries. Right. You need to be able to gather requirements from stakeholders, from developers, from anywhere you can gather it, right? And things to be done to either build the product or to enhance, right? So the entirety of these items is what is referred to here as a product backlog, right? So for your product to get done, you need to do A to Z, right? But of course, bearing in mind the incremental and iterative approach, agile approach to development and management, you can't just do A to Z at a time, right? That's why you have backlog, right? So as a product manager, as a product owner, what you want to decide is, or what you have to decide rather is, what do you need to do in the next weeks if you are working in a 2-week sprint, or if it's a 1-month sprint? What do you need, the level of requirement or tasks you need to get done in the next in the coming sprint, right? So these items are what you'd have under the sprint backlog, right? So these are ready for implementation or for development, right? And for the product backlog, so there's a product goal, right? And so that's a commitment. Yeah, so you are working on a product, and the product has to have a goal, right? What value is the product trying to deliver? That's the product goal, right? But because you are working in iterations, and you are dividing that product backlog into sprint backlog, that also means you have to have a sprint goal, right? So in the next 2 weeks, what do you want to achieve? That's basically your sprint goal, right? So you are responsible for the product backlog. As a product owner, product manager now, you are responsible for the product backlog and the product goal, right? But because the sprint backlog is being worked on by your developers or the development team, so they are responsible for the sprint goal, right? Or collaboratively, everyone is responsible for the sprint goal. What do we want to achieve in the next 2 weeks, right? So we are building Google Meet, right? But in the next 2 weeks, what we want to do is, for users to be able to share, links or yeah, to be able to share links or share their screen, right? So building Google Meet is going to be the product backlog, right? But the feature you are trying to push in the next 2 weeks is what you are going to have on the sprint backlog, right? And the sprint goal is, going to, capture, what that feature is, the value the feature is going to deliver to the users, right? So increment is the value you are delivering at the end of the day. Remember, we talked about iteration and increment, right? Increment is the value you are delivering, right? And the idea of increment also suggests, constant delivery, right? Frequency of delivery, the increment, what value are you adding now? So you are building Google Meet. Now you are building a feature that enables users to share their screen. That's an increment, right? At the end of the day, when the user can make use of it, that's an increment, right? The next sprint, you want to build something else, maybe the ability to book a calendar right from Google Meet, or to be able to book a meeting, right? Or book in advance, right? That's another feature. Yeah, the idea of increments is that, these values, the more you keep working on more values, it gets better. The product, delivers more value, right? There's a level of enhancement that you are achieving, right? And this increment is being measured against the commitment of definition of done, right? So this part is a little bit tricky, in that acceptance criteria and definition of done are kind of similar, right? Acceptance criteria are the number of requirements that a product must meet, or a feature or a task must meet, before it is considered as done or completed, right? So definition of done is more or less like the future state of acceptance criteria, in that for you to say, okay, this task is done, it has met this particular requirement, right? So the difference here is that definition of done is going to vary from every organization to the other, right? So for a particular organization, it can be that once a task or an implementation has been tested and reviewed and deployed, it is done. For another organization, it can be that once it is implemented and tested, it is done. So that means even when it is not released, it is done, right? So as a product owner, as a product manager, you want to pay attention to what defines your tasks, or the items in your backlog as done, right? And of course, you can't do this all by yourself. You need to meet with your team to come up with what the definition of done is going to be, or what it's going to look like, right? Once this is done, then you have to ensure as the product manager that whenever a task is worked on, completed, it meets this definition of done before you can say, okay, the task has been completed, or the implementation is done. All right. I think I have an example down here. All right, so this is an example, right? Product goal to create a mobile app that helps users track their daily water intake and reminds them to drink more water throughout the day. That's a product goal. That's the entirety of what you are trying to achieve with product, right? But the sprint goal, which is the goal you are trying to achieve in the next couple of days or weeks. So an example is to implement the user authentication and registration features in the mobile app. Right, that's the sprint goal. Right. this is an example of a definition of done. So for us to say this particular, the tasks under this goal, I mean, the tasks under the sprint backlog, to achieve this goal, before we can say they are done, right? Or, it is done, they have to meet this, definition of done that, we've all agreed to. So an instance here is that, user authentication and registration feature is fully implemented and tested, right? The feature meets the acceptance criteria and is approved by the product owner. Code is reviewed and meets the team's coding standards. Documentation is updated to reflect the new feature. The feature is integrated and deployed to the staging environment, right? So in this particular instance here, you can see emphasis on the flow, the process of the development, right? From implementation, testing, review to deployment to the staging environment. So the definition of done here does not include the deployment to users or users making use of this product, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the definition of done is going to vary from one organization to the other, really. So you need to study the environment you are working in. You need to study your product, and then you need to have a meeting with your Scrum team or the development team or product team, right, to come up with how you are defining your tasks or your implementations as done. All right, just to iterate, right? So the product backlog is an emergent ordered list of what is needed to improve the products. It is the single source of work undertaken by the Scrum team. The sprint backlog is composed of the sprint goal, why, the set of product backlog items selected for a particular sprint for the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, as well as an actionable plan for delivering the increment, how, which is going to be defined by the developers, right? Your own is to determine the what, right? I want this done. I want this done, right? The user should be able to share their screen. The user should be able to share a link, right? The developer's headache or responsibility is to figure out how this is going to be possible, right? And then an increment is a concrete stepping stone toward the product goal. Each increment is additive. I mean, increment, it's always adding to what exists already, to all prior increments, and thoroughly verified, ensuring that all increments work together in order to provide value. The increment must be, usable, right? At the end of the day, whatever you are working on, you want to ensure that your users can consume it or they can get value from it, right? That's the essence of your products, right? That's the essence of developing any solution at all. Yeah. So that's about it about the Agile product development. It's more or less an introduction to some of the things you need to know or be familiar with as an Agile product manager or as an Agile product owner. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Guys, am I the only one that had so much to learn in this class? Thank you so much to you. Like, this was really, really amazing. And I mean, typical Agile coach, look at you shifting tasks and issues. I love the way the slide was really, really innovative too. And people have been asking for it. So I think I'm just going to get the link from you. Is this something that the public can see?
Yeah, definitely, right. So I shared what's it called now? The link to the board with you, so you can in turn share with everyone, right? So everyone can have access to the board. Yeah.
Sir. All right, guys, I'll ensure that I share it with you guys and the recordings to this class. So we're going to go to the Q&A session. Please, guys, you know how we do it, as fast as possible so that others can also ask their own questions and we can wrap this up as soon as possible. So honestly, this feels like a university lecture and it's still so understandable. So I'm going to call on Rukoyat first. Rukoyat, good afternoon. Good evening. Oh my God. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Tolu, and thank you so much for this class. I really got value. So then
Thank you
my
very much.
question is, when carrying out this Scrum event, are we meant to document? If yes, who is responsible for that?
When carrying out the Scrum event,
Yeah, such as the daily stand-up, sprint planning, sprint review, are we meant to document?
all right, thank you very much for that question. All right, so there's no fast rule on how this is going to be done, right? So the Scrum guide, which is like the basis of everything Scrum, does not prescribe any way or any approach to, do you have to or need to document. So technically speaking, Scrum wise, I would say no, right? But practically speaking, I would say yes, right? Because it's important for you to, document discussions, right? Not necessarily writing a long paragraph or anything, just the necessary valid points, right? Or action plan or, action items, right? So that as a product manager, as a product owner, you can follow up on them, right? You can ensure that if there are issues, they are closed. If there are things you need to work on, you can work on it, right? So technically speaking, there is no fast rule on, if you are going to document or if you should, right? But my advice would be that you do actually, right?
All right, thank you so much. Secondly, does Trello allows one start a sprint? I know of Jira. Jira allows you start a sprint, but I don't know. Does Trello allows that?
No, actually. Yeah. So if I understand you correctly, the Jira idea of starting a sprint and ending it, you don't have that on that Trello. But what you do have on that Trello anyways is that there are power hubs, right? I'm not sure if any power hub is offering that, like, as an added service. So on Trello, you can search for power ups, right? So these power ups would give you like an added feature, extra functionality. Yeah. But if you are making use of the free playing Trello, no, you have to, manually do this by yourself. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? Any other? Okay, Rose, good evening. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Tolu. Please, my question is, you mentioned that in a Scrum team, it shouldn't be more than 12 people. And if it is more than 12, they should consider creating a second Scrum team. But you also mentioned that when it's more than 2 teams, you said something, what should happen? I didn't catch what you said there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah. So the recommendation on our Scrum is, of course, Scrum guide is that, a Scrum team shouldn't be more than 10, which includes the Scrum master, the product owner, and then the developers, right? But then also under Scrum, you can have up to 2 Scrum teams, right? So that is about 20 to 25 individuals, give or take, right? But the moment they are more than 20 to 25, you need to adopt a scaled Agile framework, right? I'm still going to talk a little bit, not a bit anyways, it's an assignment. yeah, a skilled agile framework that would accommodate, more than that, 25 individuals or, people working on a product, right? So there are a couple of, skilled agile frameworks out there. There is SAFe, which is, somehow the most popular, but I really hate the framework. But yeah, there is SAFe, there is Nexus, there is Scrum of Scrum, there is Less, yeah, there are a lot of, skilled agile frameworks. So this helps you to have, this large number of people to be able to manage them effectively, right? Yeah. But, at the very basic level, yeah, even when you are talking about Nexus, talking about SAFe, at that very basic level, that team level, you would find the foundation of Scrum, right? But the difference is that, there are now more layers to it. Yeah.
Okay. Second question, please. How did you create this presentation on a Trello board? It looks very complicated.
Not really, right. So Trello is one of the simplest, management tool you can get out there. And for this version I'm using, it's free, as you can see. It's free. So once you register on Atlassian, that's a company providing this service, you can, open a free Trello account, right? And basically there are templates actually. Let me see. So there are templates you can, always choose from, right? But if you don't want to from a template, you can build one yourself. All right. So let me quickly. So this is a sample. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, I can.
All right. So I'm creating a board. This is a sample. And then here you have the board, right? So what you want to do now is to map the workflow, basically what happens afterwards, before what, right? So let's say this is a backlog, product backlog. Let's say this is a sprint backlog. Then let's say in development, then let's say done, right? So this is a workflow. This is a very simple workflow, right? And then you just add your card, A, B, C, D, yeah. And you can easily drag your tags. Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as, yeah.
The problem is, the difficulty there is that you added pictures. How do you like the ones like?
All right.
I'm
So
trying to
when you open a task, right, so you can add width. You can add checklist by creating a checklist. So A, B, C, D. This checklist can be marked, right? You can attach whatever you need to attach. So let's say a cover, for instance. Yeah. And you can easily just drag and drop an image here, and yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
So do you understand?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Tolu. Does anyone else have any other question before we just go to the assignments part?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Please, I want to ask you, Tolu, what tools do you use for your Scrum when you are managing a product?
All right, thank you very much for that question. So as we talked about earlier, right? As a product manager, product owner, I would advise you are not, fixated on any particular tool or even any particular process, right? So everything we have here can be done on a cardboard or, whatever you can get, right? Basically, you can have this against it, and you have the sticky notes and you just move it, right? It's as simple as that, right? But in terms of tools, there are a couple of tools you'd definitely make use of. For instance, this Trello. I would advise that if you are just starting out, you start with Trello to be able to track and manage your tasks, right? As I've just showed it, it's very easy to open. It's simple to use. But if you are a bit advanced, you can make use of tools like Jira, right? That offers you even more advanced features to be able to manage your product, right? There are also other tools like Rike, Asana. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of tools out there, and of course, in terms of collaboration, meeting, and Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, and and the likes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, one last question. I think I've experienced whereby like a product manager was managing some developers. So they were like supposed to like, should I call it stand up, give reports of what they've done the previous day. So the product manager was using an Excel sheet. So I'm thinking of an advanced way, like for example, the down of the Excel sheet is going to put the name of the developer, then he's going to type what the developer is doing, like what the developer has to do today. Then tomorrow it's going to ask the developer, then it's going to put done. You know the way it is on the Excel sheet. So I'm like asking for an advanced way for it to be done. Do you get advanced tool?
Yeah. So I understand you, right? Maybe I should give you a disclaimer, right? I mean, there's definitely going to not be a one way or the maybe even best way of doing things, right? So it's going to vary from organizations to organizations, individuals to individuals. There are people that recommend whatever tool you want. They so much love their spreadsheets, right? Or even their physical paper or whatever, right? Yeah. Personally, I don't have a system whereby I write, what anyone is, doing, what they have done, and right. So that's the essence of having a tool like Trello or Jira, whereby everyone can, you can easily see what everyone is working on, right? So, for instance, this is a task, right? This is a task assigned to Tolulope, right?
Yes.
And this is the description of everything under the task. Yeah.
Yes.
And these are the acceptance criteria, or if you like, things to be done, right? So you can easily create this. Once the developer is done, they can mark this as done. They can mark this as done, right? That's a much more, simpler way of, of going about it, right? But like I said, there is no fast rule on how, how that is done. It's totally up to you to decide. Maybe not even you, if it is Scrum team, up to the Scrum Master or the Agile coach to decide, how this is being, tracked, or how, the inspection is being done or measured. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Okay, Tolu, do you want to just walk us through the assignments?
All right, so let's do that quickly. Yeah. So I have two assignments here. So we already kind of touched base on one, which is the Scaled Agile framework. I think as product managers, it's very important for you to have an idea about, first off, what these Scaled Agile frameworks are all about. Yeah. what are the intricacies, or, you know, how does it work, right? So there are a couple of skilled agile frameworks out there. You know, like I mentioned earlier, there is SAFe, which I hate. There is Nexus. There is Scrum of Scrum. You know, Scrum at large. Yeah, about 6 or thereabouts here. So we have about 47, 50 plus people here. So I want the participants to, yeah, you guys should divide yourself into teams, right, and choose a particular agile framework, read about it as a team, right, and make a presentation on it. Right, the facilitators will, you know, get that across to me. Yeah. Also, the presentation should be shared not just with myself, but also with, you know, every other person, right? So that, you know, everyone can, you know, read or benefit from what, you know, other teams or groups, you know, worked on, right? So that'll be the first thing, working on a scaled agile framework. Yeah. The other assignment is on backtracking the PRD for any selected product, or if you like, an African product, feature or service. All right, so this is going to be an individual task for everyone. So basically, I want you to engage any products. So for instance, CUDA, the bank app, yeah, engage it as a user or as a product manager, rather, yeah, as a product owner, you know, assume the state or the position of a product manager here, if you have to work on this particular product. So you necessarily don't have to like take the entire product, right? That might be really stressful, overwhelming. You know, you can just take a feature, right? Just a part of it. Yeah. Well, of course, don't take a ridiculously, you know, simple aspects, right? You need to challenge yourself. So engage your products, assume the state of a product manager, and then come up, you know, with the PRD for this, you know,
Hello.
particular product or feature.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, so everyone has a product that they've been working on from week 1. And last week, they wrote a PRD for their products. So for their product, they wrote a PRD, they listed out the key features, and they wrote the user story and acceptance criteria for 2 key features of the products. So
yeah, so I understand that, right? So the purpose of doing this is, you know, to you know, assume the position of a product manager for an existing product, right? This should, you know, enable you as a product manager to figure out how this, you know, how the product manager for that particular product, you know, what the thinking process is like, you know, what it kind of looks like. Right. So it's a different thing when you are, you know, coming up with your own PRP, right? You have all the space and everything.
Products.
Yeah, but yeah, I want everyone to work on, you know, something existing out there.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh, on an existing product.
Yeah, some of them did Zoom.
Cool.
We had some people that did like a lot of you should say your products now. Uber, Child Deck, Piggyverse, WhatsApp, Duolingo. So like some people use bank apps, OPay, Piggyverse, exactly.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. So I don't know if you can get that across to me. I would.
All right.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. I'll share that with you. So I think that gives them with the
So one more thing, right? On that document, what I'm very interested in seeing is, you know, how as a product owner or as a product manager, you can spread the implementation of these you know, products across more than a sprint, right? Yeah, I want to see the, you know, the thought process behind that, you know. So if you are supposed to, or if you want to work on this product, what are you going to do first? What comes after, right? And, you know, yeah, having that flow or, thought process. Yeah.
All right, guys. So I think what we are going to do is for the features that you guys worked on, the key features that you guys worked on, I would say that maybe they should plan sprints for it. I don't know, so that it won't, because I don't think they understand it.
So if you need me to, let me touch base. Do you guys understand?
They don't. From this feedback I'm getting.
Another thing is, all right, so this is what I'm trying to say, right? So let's break it down here. So you have a product you've already worked on. So you have a PRB, right? Remember what we talked about, on building in bits or developing in bits, right? So now what I want to see is, this product you've prepared to be worked on. I want you to break it down into bits, into sprints, that, okay, this particular feature is going to be done in the next, next sprint, in sprint 1, in sprint 2, and probably in sprint 3, right? And for each sprint, you should have the tasks to be done, right? I don't know if that helps or clarifies it a bit. The assignment should be written.
Exactly. The features that you guys have identified, in the products that you guys worked on, break them down into sprints, and under each of them, write the tasks that should be done under each sprint. So you can choose the 2 features that you wrote the user story and acceptance criteria for, and just, plan a sprint for it. I think you can just do the 2 features that you guys worked on. How do you know the task? You are not an engineer, my dear. You will go and do research. That's why this is.
So plan like a Trello sprint backlog on the products European. Yeah, exactly. Right. But you necessarily don't have to put it on Trello, right? So it can be on a Google Doc, just to show, okay, for this sprint, these are the tasks for this. Yeah, up to like 2 sprints or 3 sprints is okay.
Open me, your coconut head. Yes, for the 2 key features, guys, so that it doesn't get overwhelming. For the 2 key features.
I don't be engineer. Yeah, I think it's also important for you as a product manager, as a product owner, to also have some experience, or some idea about, this technical aspect, right? It is actually important. Yeah, so I guess this is going to, challenge you, right?
Exactly. This is the part where you probably reach out to existing product manager and say, you know what, I've been given an assignment.
Yeah, exactly.
You reach out, you go online. There are some products actually that the product manager that built them probably wrote articles on them. I know there was a time the product manager at CarryWise wrote like an article on how
don't do
so
don't go and do copy and paste.
Of course, don't do copy and paste though.
And don't use GPT.
We will know.
Don't do GPT.
Don't do GPT. All right, class captain, please copy the assignment, I beg, and just paste it on the channel, David. So just paste it on the channel. So for the groups that you guys belong to, Bambi, please take the attendance of everyone in class. So by random selection, we will put everyone in a team. I think we're just gonna have maybe 3 or 4 teams, and then we'll have our presentation day. Maybe Saturday, I don't know. Ogatolu will also be on the call so that he can just give feedback on what you guys have presented. I've told you guys, it's work, so you have to be prepared to do the work. So break down your products, key features into 2 or 3 sprints with tags, their description. Yes, I would refine this, David. Can you drop it in my DMs? I'll refine this. For those of you that You're not here. I'm going to reshare it on the channel, please. It's already time has gone. I won't go chop. I'm already hungry.
Gladys.
No, now. Okay.
Gladys.
Okay.
Gladys.
I'm not saying anything.
All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, if there's the need to clarify anything, Gladys can, always reach out to me. Happy to, clarify on anything you guys need. And so maybe just one more thing, and then I drop the mic. Is that, I mean, this is pretty much maybe not so introductory, right? It's just an introduction to, the fundamentals you need to know as a product manager as regards Agile, right? And I'm going to use this opportunity to also encourage the facilitators to have, maybe even an advanced class, right? Where we can go deeper to talk about, even more crucial, things. All right. Yeah, yeah, more in depth, right? In about, some of the things you need to know about, agile product management or development. My LinkedIn,
So you share the
I'm
link and I'll drop it on the channel.
all right. You have my LinkedIn now, so you drop it. So yeah.
I'll share his LinkedIn, guys. Ensure you follow him. Ensure you talk about this class. Like you suggested, actually, I think it's very, very important that we actually have that advanced class. Yeah, maybe we're gonna have a webinar on it where we actually go more technical as regards, as regards this. Thank you so much, Tolu, for your time. This
All
was
right. Thank you very much, Gladys. Thank you very much for organizing
so
this.
amazing, guys.
Thanks to everyone.
Show
Thank
your
you very
love
much,
and
guys. Yeah.
appreciation, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Is your oil in your head? Oh my God. All right, let me just stop the recording now.